and good evening to people in different time zones. Thanks for taking time to attend this session. This is going to be a really quick walkthrough on what are the new features that we have introduced with Prisma Access Cloud Management. I've done a bunch of sessions on Prisma Access Cloud Management before. I'll just give a really quick primer and walk you through in terms of what are the new features that we have introduced in Prisma Access Cloud Management, and also kind of give a quick background around it, like what are some of the use cases and stuff. So I'm not going to be using as much as slides, but I'm going to just quickly jump into a console here and then walk you through the features directly, which are enabled on our Prisma Access Cloud Management. So just a primer for people who are wondering what Prisma Access Cloud Management is. You would know that Prisma Access is actually a cloud-delivered security service offered by Palo Alto Networks, and there are two different ways to manage Prisma Access. One is using Panorama, and the other one is obviously using Prisma Access Cloud Management. Prisma Access Cloud Management is actually a cloud-delivered security service. So this is actually a service which is offered to our customers, Palo Alto Networks. We manage the service, and we offer it to our customers. There are several salient advantages. Obviously, given this is actually a cloud-delivered service, the customers, they don't have to manage, just like they don't have to go install the software, manage it, like all the updates related to upgrading the software and stuff. They don't have to do it. Obviously, Palo Alto Networks, we manage the entire application, and then we deliver it as a service to the customer. So the other advantage of Prisma Access Cloud Management is you would have known about the best practices tool, where it's I think SLR or something, where you could do an offline best practices valuation of how the policies and then the different configurations are which are configured, what are they state, right? So one of the advantages with us is we actually offer inline best practices checks, like in the sense that when you create a profile, like a threat profile or a policy, or let's say global protect configuration and stuff, we can immediately once the configuration is entered, we can immediately give you an analysis of what are all the best practices that has been actually fulfilled. What are all the best practices that the configuration did not comply to? In fact, like I'm going to just show a quick example and walk you through that. And the thing is, it offers a unified admin experience for the Prisma Access security admins. When I say security admins, obviously there are like other admins that use different products like SaaS, DLP, and stuff. So we are able to bring in the SaaS DLP applications into our product, and then offer a unified experience to the customer. So quickly, just to kind of show like what I'm talking about, this is the Prisma Access Cloud Management console, or the management portal, right? So obviously on the left, we'll start with the left nav. So here is Insights. Insights, it's more of giving you an idea in terms of how your Prisma Access infrastructure has been doing, right? So right from like remote networks, how many tunnels are up, how many tunnels are down, alerts and stuff, and then there is mobile users, and then it goes all the way like with service connections, Prisma Access locations, tunnels, and like if you want to actually go request any upgrades and stuff, right, you can do it. And also, you'd have heard about like autonomous DEM, which is more of how how is the user experience for the applications they're trying to access through the Prisma Access network. So this gives you an idea in terms of where the problems could be. Is it somewhere in your ISP, or is it somewhere with the end application itself? Like if a user is reporting any kind of performance issues and stuff, right? And also we have the manage tab here. The manage tab is more for configuration. So you can configure your Prisma Access infrastructure, which is the service setup here. You can define all the security policies and threat policies, threat related configurations and stuff in the configuration. I will just a second, I'll come back to web security. I want to just kind of give a primer then, and then talk about what are the new things that we're doing with web security. Um, uh, and obviously with any application, with any Palo Alto networks, people who are familiar with using firewalls, irrespective of whether it's Palo Alto networks or not, you would obviously want to actually have a look at logs, right? So once you configure security policies and stuff, you want to take a look at logs, like what are all the traffic which is actually going through? Have they been properly matched to the policy or not that is being configured? So you'll have the log viewer in the activity. There are other stuff that we provide in activity, like these are the dashboards. This is again just to give you an idea, like what are all the threats the Prisma Access service has been able to actually protect the users from, and also kind of give you an idea in terms of which users are accessing what type of applications and stuff. You can download, you can schedule and download reports. There is actually, I'll talk about a concept called micro front end, where we are able to bring in SaaS security and then DLP into our platform itself to offer a unified experience. So the SaaS security and DLP incidents are related to those. So we have kind of high level workflow where all the configurations are done in the manage section, and all the reporting and visualization and logging, all those things are part of the activity tab. So anything related to like SaaS security, DLP, like anything that needs to do with respect to reporting and logging. So it's actually in the activity tab, and anything to do with configuration is actually under the configuration under the manage tab. So that's how on a high level it's been divided. So talking about the configuration and such, right? So one of the things that I talked about is we do inline best practices checks. So when you configure a security policy, immediately when you configure a security policy, we give a verdict saying that, hey, the security policies that have been configured, what are all the things that actually went through with respect to best practices, in the sense the configurations complied with best practices, and which did not comply with best practices. We clearly give you why it was, rather than just saying that, hey, there were 6 checks which were done, and the 7 checks which were done, and then 1 failed, and then the other 6 passed, right? Even for the sections where the best practices checks were passed, we give you an explanation on what kind of check was it, and then why it passed with respect to best practices. So you can also kind of get an idea in terms of what are all the feature adoptions, like in the sense, the 3 pillars of Palo Alto Networks, which is app ID, user ID, and content ID. It's like, how have you been using those features in the security policies, right? So this is obviously to make your security posture more efficient and then secure. The idea here is you make use of these features in order to actually more and more have stringent policies or exact policies defined. without actually opening up much of without actually opening up the attack surface area. So this is this is kind of a high-level overview on best practices. So we also what we do is, just to make the adoption easier, we also have like onboarding, where like if a customer is new to a certain feature, like they recently bought a certain feature, we have onboarding workflows where if the customer clicks on it, it takes you step by step in terms of what is the minimal set of configurations required to get that feature up and running. Obviously, as a customer goes through, configures the feature, and then gets used to the feature, he can actually go and then do more complicated, more intricate or complicated configurations and stuff. This is again just like a walkthrough. Rather than reading an admin guide, like you can use the walkthrough in order to quickly configure a particular feature and get it up and going. We also have something called the rule optimizer. The idea here is obviously we have an ML algorithm which actually runs at the back and looks at your traffic logs and looks at the policies and stuff, and then kind of suggests, saying that, hey, I mean, when you have an overly permissive policy, right? Do you want to actually split it? Do you want to actually split it to like 3 different or 4 different strict policies, right? And if you actually look at it, if you're okay, you can actually it's more of a very easy process. The policies are already created. You can actually import it into the rule base and then push it to the backend. So you don't have to create the rule base and stuff. So it gives you a visualization in terms of, hey, splitting this one policy, which is overly permissive, into 3 or 4 specific policies. And if you're okay with it, then you can actually import it into the rule base within one single click. So these are some of the advantages that the cloud managed Prisma Access provides. So coming to some of the new features that we have so I want to just go from top down. So obviously we did introduce Prisma Access actually did introduce explicit proxy as one of the onboarding mechanism. I think this is about actually more than a year and a half ago. And one of the things that we have here is you can actually go and then edit your pack files on the product itself. So people, you're familiar with pack files and stuff, so you can edit the pack file. Once you click on save, there is a validator which runs the validation to check some of the validations that are inherent to Prisma Access, and some of the validations with respect to format of the pack files, if they're correct or not. So once it is done, once you save, like, it obviously goes to the Prisma Access backend, and also you can click on the pack file, and then you can actually download the pack file as well, right? So having an inline way of editing the pack file, so you don't have to download, you don't have to actually go to an editor and then edit the pack file, re-upload it again, so you can save all the work. This is one of the things that we introduced in cloud management. And then also with respect to explicit proxy, it's not enabled on this platform, but we also have support for second type of authentication, which is Kerberos, which we recently introduced. This is again for some use cases where some customers may have some machines, old machines, like, which use Kerberos as authentication, right? So we want to be able to provide a way for the servers to actually authenticate, make sure before they are communicating with like something on the internet, like, we want to make sure that they're properly authenticated. The machines are who they are, like, before they can actually go out to the internet. SAML and CIE based authentication is already present for the users, so that's supported for a long time. So in terms of unified admin, like, one of the things that I wanted to bring it up is like, under configuration and security services, we have DLP and SaaS security. So people who are familiar with Palo Alto Networks, you would know that there is actually separate applications for DLP and then SaaS security on Hub. We have a concept called micro frontend where we can bring in these applications into our management portal. The idea here is the DLP and SaaS security teams, like they bring in their applications and then they host it here. It's kind of a container that we provide them, and it's not that they just host it here. Like we are able to even control saying that the configuration goes here. Like we are able to stick to our workflows where the configuration goes here, and then and any kind of DLP incidents that you see, right? It's again under the activity, right? So this is actually a very flexible. This is actually a very flexible framework that we have. And think about it for a enterprise admin, right? How useful this is, where the enterprise admin can go configure DLP rules here and then associate the DLP rules to the profile groups, right? So the profile groups are where you would bring in all your threat-related profiles that you configured, and then you can bring in the DLP profile here as well. And then go to the security policy here and then create a security policy and then attach that profile that was created newly, right? So here is where you could go and then attach a profile. So this makes it like a very, I would say, kind of very easy, and then like all the different configuration steps are achieved within the security services section itself. The admin doesn't have to jump between like multiple labs in order to accomplish this. The same thing with SaaS security, right? So with SaaS security, it's more of the configurations which are done in SaaS security, but additionally, like if the admin wants to see that what are all the new SaaS applications and stuff which are discovered in the network, he can quickly come here and then take a look, right? We also have something called the policy recommendations. The policy recommendations is let's take an example of SaaS security admin, like who looks at the dashboard, sees that there are a bunch of new applications, SaaS applications, which are discovered based on users accessing them from their enterprise network. They can essentially create policy recommendations saying that how those applications should be treated in line. Should they be blocked? Should the downloads or the uploads, do they be monitored for any kind of data exfiltration? Then they can create policy recommendations here. And once the policy recommendations are created, it shows up to the security admin here. And the security admin, what he can do is he can import those policies into the rule base. So I think in one of my previous sessions, I actually covered this in more detail. So if you're unfamiliar with policy recommendations, I would actually recommend you go back and then revisit the recording. I don't want to actually go through this again. But just to kind of give you an idea, the policy recommendation, with policy recommendation now, we have in the application or in the cloud management, Prisma Access Cloud Management itself, there is actually a kind of a flow built where the SaaS security admin now, like any kind of recommendations that he has, like if this flow wasn't available, he needs to go open a ticket, work with the security admin, and then get the policies, have the security admin configure the policies and stuff, right? There is a lot of possibility of errors and stuff. So with this, within the tool itself, the SaaS security admin can recommend the policy recommendations or the policies, and then the web security admin can import and then apply those policies, and then the web security admin can decide what kind of threat profiles that they want to use for those policies, like what because like the threat profiles and stuff, more of a security admin has an idea about it. And the SaaS security admin has read-only access to the web security rule or the security rule base. So he can in fact see that whether the rules have been properly applied or they were applied or not. So you can even take a look and then confirm. So this is actually more within a product workflow that we have done to make sure that SaaS security admins or data security admins can actually work with the web security admins and then apply policies at a faster rate rather than going outside the tool and then going through some kind of ticketing system outside the tool. So that brings me to like one of the important things, obviously, that we have developed is web security. The idea with web security here is we simplify the security policy definition, and then also the security policy kind of operations for the internet, for internet-based traffic. The idea here is like if you look at security policy, right? So you would whenever you define a security policy with an internet, usually it's going to be around a context of like, hey, what do you want a particular user group or user to do, right? What kind of applications he can access on the internet? What kind of URL categories, or what kind of URL categories he can access, or what kind of URL categories he can't access on the internet? So that's usually like 2 or 3 different security rules that you need to configure. But when you take the web security, right, you would have you could actually define a user group or a user application here, like in terms of what he can do and then what he cannot do in the policy. You can define what kind of web application the user or the user groups cannot access, allowed applications that the user or user groups are allowed to access, URL categories they're not allowed to access, and then URL categories that they're allowed to access, right? And then we also provide easy way of bringing in whether you want to enable decryption, disable decryption, or whether you want to attach some kind of file control or DLP policies or credential leaking. You want to enable it. So it's actually a framework that makes the application, that makes the usage, or that makes the maintenance of the internet security policies like it makes it way more easy as compared to the regular security policy. So in the backend, obviously, we translate it to the regular security policy, and then we push it to the Prisma Access firewall. So this was introduced newly, where the detailed usage, you can actually take a look in terms of what those policies are transformed to, like how many rules they're getting transformed to, right? So allow URL, block URL, and then allow app, block app. They're easily like somewhere between 2 to 4 rules where it translates to in the backend. But whereas for an admin, like when he's looking at it, it's only a single rule in the web security rule base. So we provided a detailed usage just because lot of our customers who come from the Panos Palo Alto Networks security policy background and stuff, so they can easily go see like what it is actually transformed to, like if you're familiar with like older security policies and stuff, just for verification and troubleshooting purposes. Another new thing that we introduced was, obviously, there is a global catch-all policy. The web security policy or the web access policy is only for the internet traffic, which is port 80, port 443, and obviously applications which are tagged as web app, right? So we have an option to disable global catch-all. So this is, for example, people who are configuring security policies, right? The web security policies sit on the top. And if you want to migrate your internet policy slowly from the regular security rule base to web security, then you can disable the global catch-all. So if you're familiar with the top-down policy approach, the policy match for a particular flow actually flows down from top to down, right? So it flows into the regular security policy section as well, right, for internet traffic, and you can slowly migrate the policies over from security policies to the web security framework. So these are some of the new things with which we actually ended supporting, like which is specific to cloud management, of course, and obviously with the SaaS application management. So we do have the EDLs where you can bring in you can quickly apply security policies for all the Microsoft 365, Google Apps, Dropbox, or YouTube endpoints and stuff. So this is available as well. And also, one of the other things that I wanted to quickly show is we do have easy, easy, just one or few clicks of RBI redaction. So you can set up the vendor, which RBI vendor that you have. Once the configuration is done, you can actually go to the URL profile that you want to use, and then you can actually click on the site access and say that, hey, you want to isolate. Isolate is a pretty common word with remote browser isolation appliances or software. So you can just click on you want to isolate with Menlo Security, because Menlo Security was configured as an RBI vendor in the previous screen that I showed. So the traffic will automatically be forwarded. This URL category traffic will automatically be forwarded once obviously you put it to you associate this to the security policy, and the traffic is actually easily redirected to that remote browser isolation vendor for isolation. So those are literally like some of the new features that I wanted to cover with respect to what we have done of late, and obviously anything to come with Prisma Access. For example, like any 3.1, 3.2 features, we would be bringing that. That is nothing specific to cloud management as such, but of course. That's more of like the Prisma Access features that Prisma Access supports, and then given we are one of the management options for Prisma Access, right? We support it in our platform. So outside that, some of the features that I walked through right now, those are some of the additions that we have done outside that in order to simplify operations or config management and stuff for our customers.